Welcome to South Carolina, a state rich in history and bursting with charm. Join us as we tour 4 quintessential houses in the picturesque Low Country. We journey to a 600 square foot apartment in Charleston, a traditional colonial home in Rock Hill, a farmhouse defined by English decor, and a bungalow layered with beautiful fabrics. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. To access all of this exclusive content, simply click the Join button below to become a member today. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Emily. I'm so excited to welcome you to my Charleston home. Hi everyone, I'm Emily Sermons. This is Charles. Welcome to my 610 square foot home in Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia in the South, and I think like a lot of my peers, I was so ready to get out of the South. Once I graduated college, I immediately moved to California, eventually made my way to New York, and I was pretty positive that I was never going to end up in the South again. I started dating my boyfriend who has family in Charleston, and we took a lot of trips to Charleston together in some of those early years of dating. And kind of in spite of myself, I ended up falling in love with Charleston in a way that I never expected to fall in love with a southern city. I just loved the way that Charlestonians are obsessed with historic architecture. I love the history and the charm and the beauty and the food of Charleston. And I really started to see the possibility to build a really permanent life here. In the pandemic, we were living in New York, but decided to spend a little bit of time here. And when this home came on the market, we absolutely loved how bright it was, the perfect location downtown, how much charm the home had. And while it was a little bit of a leap of faith, we decided to purchase the home and start our lives as snowbirds, kind of spending fall and winter in New York, coming down here after the holidays and spending through June here in Charleston. So I would not trade it for the world. I love living in both cities, and my love for Charleston has just grown so much, even more so than when I was coming down as a tourist. Now, as a Charlestonian myself, I just have such a deep appreciation for the city, its history, and the really vibrant community that's here. My full-time job is a product manager at Adobe. It's a job that I absolutely love because it allows me to be close to creative people, creative tools, but it's a job that does feel a little dry day to day, and it was really important to me to find an outlet outside of work that allowed me to be creative and kind of got me away from the computer screen. So a couple of years ago in 2021, I decided to take my passion for interior design a little bit more seriously and start an online community that I call Shoebox Designs. And really, the whole premise of Shoebox Designs is about empowering people to design small spaces with vintage and antique decor. So a lot of what I post on that community are tips for working within a small space, my advice on how to find really special vintage and antique pieces. And I've also recently started reselling antique pieces to my community because I collect so much that I can't possibly put it all in my home, but I want to give my followers the opportunity to find some of these really unique items and bring them into their homes as well. Welcome to the Entryway. As you can see, this is a small, dark space. So when I was designing it, I really wanted to inject a ton of elegance and charm to really elevate this space and make it feel like a really special place when you're first entering the apartment. I first decided on this beautiful green striped wallpaper, and I think because it's such a small space, I really got to play around with pattern here, play around with color in a way that you don't really see in other parts of the home. And I think that it adds such a beautiful elegance to this space and is the perfect backdrop for the rest of the elements. I first found this bar when I was shopping at one of my favorite antique stores in Charleston, Warehouse 61. I had another piece of furniture in this space. I wasn't really looking for something new, but this piece stopped me in my tracks. And for weeks and weeks, I would go back just to look at it. I honestly just loved looking at it. It was so beautiful. And eventually, my partner Jay and I said, wouldn't we be so devastated if one of those weeks we went back to the antique store and it wasn't there? And I think that that was the clearest indication for us that we had to just pull the trigger and figure it out. And I'm so glad that we did. I think that this piece has so much history. Fun fact, it was not originally used as a bar. This piece is actually what's called a pie chest or a pie safe. So it was used back in a time where refrigerators weren't common in homes, and it was used to keep things like pastries cool. But we like to use it as a bar. One of my favorite secrets about this piece is actually when you open it up and you pull out this little secret compartment, it makes the perfect spot for mixing and making drinks. And I love that it's a fun pop of green that meshes in with the rest of the room. These coupes are one of my favorite pieces of glassware that my mom actually found for me. They were part of a really fun set that she found. They're from the 1950s. They were part of a set called a smoke, sip, and snack tray, which is such a funny concept that people back in the 50s would have one tray where they literally were smoking and having a drink and having snacks all in one place. I love these little glasses though. I love the little knob detail on the bottom, and they're really fun for just throwing a splash of champagne in. I had been looking for a coat rack for this room for honestly 3 years, and I could never find anything that was beautiful and functional. And when I found this piece, I found it on auction. I loved it so much because not only was it this beautiful Edwardian piece that had so much charm and character, but it came with this mail organizer, which I thought was such a fun element to put in our entryway as well. So I bid on the auction, ended up winning, and we honestly just installed this in the last week, so I'm really happy with this new addition. So Charleston itself really inspired the decor for this home. I think that Charleston as a city is a kind of collage of old meets new, and I really tried to bring that into the home itself. I'm a big fan of vintage and antique furniture, and you'll see that there's a lot of vintage and antique furniture in this home, kind of paired with pops of modern decor, which I think helps the home feel elegant and classy, but still a little playful. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I think because this condo is so small, we really have to make sure that all of the elements feel really cohesive. So things that you'll see in the apartment are pops of gold, a lot of beautiful wood tones, and a lot of greenery kind of throughout the apartment. I think something that's really important about decorating a small space is not to be afraid of big furniture. I think oftentimes when people start decorating in a small space, they don't want it to feel cramped, so they buy small pieces of furniture, they try not to clutter the apartment. And I think that what that ends up doing is actually making the apartment feel smaller when it's made up of a bunch of small little things scattered about. I do not shy away from really big, bold, beautiful pieces of furniture that draw the eye upwards, that serve as focal points. I think that that's actually a really great way to make a space that might be a little bit small feel much bigger than it actually is. Design is a very collaborative process between me and my partner Jay. I think that honestly some of the best scores in this home were completely his idea, and I'm so thankful that he's kind of pushed me in new directions. For example, I love this coffee table now, but I was not sure about it when he found it. And once we put it in the space, it's got kind of that modern touch that an apartment like this really needs because there's so much antique furniture. And my followers ask about it all the time. That's just one example of so many that he's kind of picked and chosen and brought into the home. And I really don't make design decisions without sitting down with him and talking about what it's going to look like, what the purpose of it is, what the story we're going to tell about the apartment with the piece is. So it's a very collaborative process, and I'm so lucky that I have someone who's not just supportive of all of my design passions, but actually derives a lot of joy from it himself. Follow me this way into the living room. Welcome to our living room. Definitely the star of the show here is this gallery wall that sits right above our couch. This was probably the first design project that I took on for this home. I had been collecting art pieces and frames for many, many months, and I think I was a little bit scared to get started. I wanted the gallery wall to be very symmetrical, so this perfect rectangular shape rather than very asymmetrical. And I think I spent the whole month of January just putting different orientations of pictures and frames together, just laying them out on my rug in the living room, trying to get it perfect. And eventually Jay said to me, look, I think you just need to start getting this stuff up on the wall and it's gonna come together. And that is absolutely the number one tip that I have for anybody else that's trying to get a gallery wall together and is having a little bit of trouble getting started, is just start getting stuff up on the wall. The design came so naturally once I could see it in the space. I moved things around, and I think maybe it only took me about an afternoon for this whole vision to come to life. I tend to change up the art in here semi-regularly, but there are a couple of pieces that I know I will always keep on this wall because they are some of my favorite artists. Starting here with this beautiful oversized piece by Josh Young. I have been a fan of Josh for so many years. I have a couple of his pieces in both of my homes. This one I absolutely loved when I first saw it, and I knew that it would go perfectly with this antique frame that I found at an antique mall here in Charleston. I think that this is the biggest piece in the gallery wall, and it makes such a statement. These two pieces are by one of my favorite artists, Susanna Carson. She does a lot of traditional classical pieces, and these two are really special. They are called lover's eyes, and it comes back from a tradition in the 18th century when lovers would send miniature portraits of their eyes to their significant other to remember them by. I loved this pair when I saw them because since it came in a set, it looked like a pair of two lovers that had sent these portraits back and forth to one another, and I think that they are such a unique piece to be in the gallery wall. Last but not least, one of my favorite pieces is this face right here. It's by a local artist named Carrie Davis, and if you go around Charleston to restaurants and hotels, you'll see her face work everywhere. I fell in love with this little piece, I think, because the gallery wall is a little bit classical and formal. A piece like this adds a little bit of playfulness, and I also just love having artwork from a local Charlestonian in my wall. One of my favorite pieces in the living room is our antique rug from Revival. It's almost like a neutral that's not quite a neutral. It has a beautiful pattern, but it's still very understated, and I think that it really ties the whole room together super nicely. The hardwood floors in this building are actually from when this building, which was built in the 1920s, converted from a hotel into condos. So while they are not original, they are very old, and a lot of the architectural details that you'll see in this house do date back to the very early 1900s. The fireplace is not original to the home, but I had admired so many different Parisian apartments that had these beautiful marble mantles, and I connected with someone who's now a good friend, Molly at Mantle House DC, who refurbishes and sells beautiful marble mantles. I connected with her, and she was selling this piece that I knew was the perfect size for the home. So we had it shipped down to Charleston. We worked with a local stonemason to get it installed. And while I am not normally a DIYer, I did try to make this feel a little bit more like a real built-in fireplace by adding some faux brick and a nice wooden surround to it. And right at the bottom here, we have a little log heater that we use all the time in the winter. It's so nice to just be able to curl up right next to the fireplace and warm your toes. So this is a really beautiful vignette, and we put our Samsung frame TV right above it, and we fool people all the time who think that it's really artwork. I found this chair in Savannah on Facebook Marketplace, and I drove down, made the trip to go pick it up and bring it home. It is such a fun piece, and I really love the pop of color that it brings to this room, but it also has a very functional purpose. Because this room is so small, but we love hosting guests, I really needed a solution that would be able to move around the room really easily so that all of my guests could face each other when they were in conversation. So when I was looking for chairs that I could add to the living room, I knew I had to have something that swiveled really easily so that everyone could kind of face into the center of the room and feel really connected when they were talking to one another. My mom bought me this antique toothpick holder for Christmas one year, and I absolutely loved the beautiful crystal shape of it. However, I had a little bit of a vision for it, and I thought it would be such a fun matchstick holder. So I bought a couple of matches online, and I found these little stickers that I placed on the bottom there that are actually striker paper so that I can take a match out, strike it on the bottom, and then use it to light any of my candles. And I really love kind of displaying the matches that I've used on little antique ashtrays. I have one on this coffee table that you can see. This antique ashtray was one that Jay bought me for my birthday, and I think it's kind of fun that once I'm done with the match, I'll just drop it on the ashtray. This coffee table is one of the more modern elements in the house. It's something that my partner Jay found, and I wasn't really sure about it. I'd never really seen a shape like this before. But once we brought it into the space, I knew that it immediately helped kind of pare down some of the more overly traditional or antique elements in the house. And I think it's the perfect size and the perfect height. So I really love this coffee table. And we always joke, Jay and I, that I get so many questions about this coffee table, and it's not even a piece that I picked out. So kudos to Jay for that find. However, if I had to choose my favorite piece in the living room, it's probably this one. This side table is actually an antique humidor, which is used to store cigars, but we use it as a side table, and I think it is so elegant and so unique. The story of how we found it is actually a little bit funny. When we were purchasing the bar in our entryway, which is a piece that we deliberated on for weeks, we were walking out the door with the bar in hand, and we saw this piece out of the corner of our eye, and we said, within maybe 30 seconds, why don't you throw that one on as well and we'll bring it home. We did not think about it for more than a minute. And it ended up being probably my favorite piece in the living room, and it's a piece that is so beautiful. I get a ton of questions on it, and I think that just goes to show you that antique furniture and the hunt for an antique piece really can be so different day to day. Sometimes it's a decision that you deliberate on. Sometimes it's something that you see out of the corner of your eye and you just know. And I think it's so funny that we got both of those really special pieces on the same day. Something that I think makes this room feel really warm and inviting are the floor-to-ceiling curtains that we have that surround our French doors. Funny story about this was actually not a piece that we picked out. It came from the previous owners of the homes, and we loved the way that the drapes look so much that we just chose to keep them. So thank you to the previous tenant of this building who left these gorgeous drapes for us. My personal sense of style is something that I think is always evolving, but a couple of words that come to mind are definitely vintage, antique. There is so much of that in my home, and really my passion for interior design comes from my love of old items and bringing new life into them. I think I'm definitely classified as a maximalist. I have a ton of items I am constantly collecting, and there's nothing that I think makes a space feel more like home when it's filled with these items that you've collected throughout your life and mean a lot to you and are displayed in a way that feels beautiful. I take a lot of inspiration from European architecture and European elements. I'm always looking at English and Parisian homes to kind of see the way that they are styled and bring some of that into my home as well. And I think the last thing I would use, or the last word I would use to describe my home, is that it's playful. I really like to find objects that maybe have one purpose and inject a new purpose into them. I'll show you some examples kind of around my home, but I really like a space that feels playful, whimsical, and just really personalized to the person who's living inside. Let me show you my absolute favorite part of this home, which is our balcony. Welcome to our balcony, truly the most special part of our home here in Charleston. I was inspired by the gardens of Charleston, which are some of the most iconic and oldest gardens in the United States. And I spent so many months just walking around the historic homes in Charleston and getting inspiration from the gardens that I saw there. And some of the details that I wanted to bring into this tiny space were a ton of greenery. I have beautiful ferns and a couple of other taller plants. I saw a lot of really beautiful black and white patio furniture. And of course, my favorite element were the checkerboard floors that I saw on so many different gardens and patios in Charleston. I didn't have it in the budget to do black and white tiles, so I chose to DIY these myself. And over the course of 3 days, I stenciled out and painted these beautiful black and white checker pattern onto our balcony floor. And while my back was not so happy after I completed that project, it immediately just made this space pop and really upped the elegance level. It is one of my all-time favorite projects I've completed, and I love the way that it makes this balcony look and feel. So we decided to put some really durable but also really beautiful looking patio furniture on this space because we do use this space all the time. We're always out here having a little nightcap. Sometimes we decide to do dinner al fresco. So I love this table. It's actually from World Market and it is a fantastic deal if anyone's looking for a bistro table. And I think that this space is so functional yet still remains beautiful. Charles here is a serial sunbather. So when I found this little miniature sun chair on Amazon, and it kind of had a similar feel of the black and white stripes that this patio had going on, I knew I had to get it for him. So on a really sunny day, you can find Charles scratching at our French doors, wanting to go outside and lay out on his little patio chair and just be kind of king of Charleston out here for a bit. I like to joke that the absolute best place in the whole city of Charleston to get a nightcap and watch the sunset is right here on this balcony. We face southwest and the sunsets are honestly otherworldly. I've traveled a lot, I've seen a lot of different sunsets and none of them compare to what you can see in Charleston from this balcony. It's the most special time of day. I love having friends over at sunset and it really just makes this place feel like a dream. Let's head back inside. A reminder that this house is 610 square feet, so we don't have a ton of space to work with, which is why you'll see that this home is very open concept with the living room looking into the kitchen. And I'm so lucky that we have this island here because it's the perfect place for us to have dinner. It's the perfect place to work. Usually one of us, when we're working from home, is working from this kitchen island. And we were so lucky to find these awesome swivel bar stools, which of course are really great when we're working or we're eating, but it's also a really great place for our guests to sit. And because they swivel and the chair in the corner swivels, we can have up to 5 people that are sitting and enjoying themselves in the living room, talking and all facing one another. So these chairs are totally multi-purpose and we were really lucky to find them. There are a lot of old home quirks with this tiny little condo, one of which is this built-in nook that we have right next to our kitchen bar stools. For me, because this is often a place that I work from home, I tend to tuck things like my computer and my chargers away in this wicker basket. And then usually we have a variety of cookbooks or magazines or just random coffee table books that we'll tuck into this corner. And I love that it's just a little visually interesting piece in what would normally be a very generic kitchen island. Before we moved in, this whole wall used to be closed off, and the person that lived here before us knocked the wall down, installed this beautiful wooden beam, and had some light fixtures hung above the island. We weren't in love with the light fixtures they chose. They had a little bit of a mason jar cottagecore vibe, but I found these beautiful milk glass lights from West Elm. I really love this collection. I actually have a couple of lights from this ribbed milk glass collection, and we decided that it would be the perfect focal point over the island. And I think obviously milk glass is a very classic material, but it's got a bit of a modern shape, so it really ties into the classical meets modern look that I'm trying to go for in this house. Let me show you the rest of the kitchen. This kitchen is small, but it is mighty. One of the things that makes this kitchen really functional, even though it's tiny, is that our fridge and our freezer are actually right here below the kitchen island. They are super tiny and it probably wouldn't work for a family bigger than ours, but since it's just me and my partner who live here, it's actually the perfect place for us to keep our fridge and freezer, and it frees up the rest of the kitchen without having a big standalone fridge in the way. When we moved in, these cabinets were covered in a really ugly gray vinyl. It was one of the first things we knew we wanted to change. And I love really high contrast kitchens, so I knew I wanted to paint this kitchen a color that would really pop. And initially I was really brought in by some of the trendier kitchen colors like greens or blues, but I knew that something like this dark matte black would be so timeless and would kind of evolve with the kitchen no matter how our decor styles changed. And I'm so glad that I made this decision. I love the vignette that you get when you look into the living room in these beautiful black cabinets. So one of the ways that we save space is actually by keeping our microwave in this cabinet. For safety reasons, we always keep the door open when we're using it, but I didn't want a microwave taking up some of the valuable counter space that we had in this tiny kitchen, so tucking the microwave into the cabinets was a really great solution for us. While the kitchen is a space that needs to be functional, I didn't want to lose the character that I had built up in the rest of the house of this kind of collected space with a lot of tchotchkes and a lot of brass and a lot of just fun items. So I really love what we were able to do with this tiny little corner. We installed these beautiful wood and brass shelves, and it's the perfect place for me to display some of my favorite bits and bobs that I've picked up over the years at antique stores. And one of the things that I thought was such a fun addition to the kitchen is this antique music stand that we use as a cookbook holder. I found it a couple years ago, thought it was so fun, didn't know what I was going to use it for, and when we were styling the kitchen earlier this year, it was the perfect place to rest a cookbook while we were cooking. So these two are oyster plates, which is a very Charleston accessory to have in your house. I always go to the annual Charleston Homes and Gardens Festival, where you can look and take a peek inside some of the old historic homes in Charleston, see the way that they have been decorated. And in almost every single house, they had a beautiful collection of antique oyster plates that were often brought in from France and displayed on the wall just like these are. And since oysters are such a big Charleston delicacy, I knew that it would be the perfect kind of local homage that I could add to my home. So I picked up these two, a matching set of beautiful oyster plates, and I hope it's just the beginning of a collection that I can kind of build on over time. I love finding antique items and then finding a new way to make them functional. This is a great example of that. This is an old mailbox that was from a home in Charleston. I don't know exactly how old it is, but you can see it still has the original name of whoever lived in the house that it came from. We use it as a fun place to store Charles's leash, and if you open up the mailbox, we also store all of his dog bags in there, so we can always grab them if we're heading out quickly. We have a lot of art in this home, as you can see, but this little piece gets a place of honor for a very special reason. When we live in New York for half of the year, our apartment is on Washington Square Park in Manhattan, and I found this adorable little sketch of Washington Square Park, and I wanted to kind of give it a special place in our home in Charleston, just to remind us fondly of our other home and other life in New York, and just reminds me of all of the wonderful things waiting back in New York for us when we go. And similarly, I have a little sketch of Charleston that we display in our New York home. So it just reminds me of our dual city life and makes me so thankful that I get to live in two of the most amazing cities. I think what really brings heart and soul into a home is having a home that is really collected with objects that you love and that are meaningful to you. I think that's what makes me so much of a collector and why I love finding things from all over the world in my travels, in my day-to-day, and bringing them into my home and decorating with them. I really love being able to take someone into my home and tell them the story of the time that I found this picture, or where I picked up this bust, or the really funny story of trying to travel with this big bulky piece of furniture across state lines. I have so many of those moments and stories in my home, and I think that it really brings a lot of connection to invite people in, to tell the guests the story of your home, and it also just makes me happy to be surrounded by so many things that I love. Welcome to our bedroom. One of my favorite vignettes in the house is this little vanity moment that I have in the corner of my bedroom. I think it all started when I found this tiny little kidney table, and the reason that I fell in love with it was this detailing on the sides. I found out later that it's called ormolu. It's this technique that kind of dates back to the 18th century of gilded bronze that's added as decoration to wooden furniture, and you'll actually see it in a couple of different places in the home. I really love furniture with that kind of detail. So when I found this little kidney table, I was absolutely in love with it, and it's a very peaceful place to sit, get ready for the morning. I found this gorgeous mirror that felt like it fit perfectly in this moment, and I think it's a very elegant space in this bedroom. So one of the secrets of this area as well is I have this cute little storage stool, and in it I have all of my makeup so that I can kind of keep it out of sight, but it's super easily accessible for where I'm sitting here and I'm doing my daily routine. We buy all of our candles pretty much from one of our favorite local Charleston stores called Candlefish. They ship all over the country, so I highly recommend you check them out. But they are this adorable little perfumery that's right here in downtown Charleston. Some of my favorite scents tend to be the ones that smell kind of like a Christmas tree, the pines. So if you're on Candlefish's site and you're looking, my personal favorites are scent number 4 and scent number 42. I burn them all year round. Definitely the star of the show here are these beautiful built-ins that surround our queen bed frame. When we saw these built-ins when we were first touring the house, it was one of the biggest selling points of the apartment. Because I am such a big collector, I knew it would be the perfect place to display all of my antique tchotchkes and just be a stunning focal point for the room. As you can see, we have a ton of books because my partner and I are huge readers. Honestly, these are just the really beautiful ones. We have so many more that are tucked away in cabinets or closets, a bunch in our home in New York. So we just display the ones that are really beautiful on the shelves. One of my favorite things to do when I am going to antique malls or going to flea markets is finding some of my favorite books that I've already read and finding really beautiful older editions of them. You can see that there are some of my absolute favorite classics on here, things like Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas. A lot of those favorites I found these beautiful editions of, and I love displaying those on my shelves. I think it's a really beautiful way to represent something that is so important to me in reading. When it comes to designing bookcases, I really believe that it is trial and error. I think I've restyled these shelves about a dozen different times since we've moved in, but a couple of items that I think always make a shelf styling moment shine are, of course, books, and a lot of them, especially if they are books that are meaningful to you or tell a story. I love collecting different pottery and putting it on my shelves. So this beautiful blue Delftware pottery that I have here. And obviously art is a big thing in my home in general, but it's something that I really love to layer on top of my shelf styling elements. So I have a couple of my favorite paintings. One of my favorite pieces that's actually a painting that is painted on a plate by one of my favorite artists, Susanna Carson. This is so fun. So I really like to take an approach of taking things that I'm buying and collecting already and just moving them around, seeing how they're meshing together, and really making sure that it feels very collected and cohesive. So a little silly thing that I like to collect is hand decor. You'll kind of see it all over both my house here and my house in New York, but if I find a really interesting piece of decor that has a hand component to it, I just fall in love with it. I always buy them. This is an example of one. This is a little paperweight that I just like resting on top of these books. It's right next to these hand bookends that I really love. I don't know where the obsession came from, but I think that it's just such a visually interesting component. And you know, when you come over to my house, you can kind of play a little game of hide and seek of where are all the hands kind of styled around my home. So you'll notice that I have a lot of neoclassical decor in my home. I am obsessed with ancient Greece and Greek mythology, so you'll see a lot of nods to that in some of the decor pieces in my home. You can see up there I have 2 busts of Apollo and Artemis. I actually have another bust of Apollo on my desk. I have Hermes out in the entryway. It really brings me so much joy as a lifelong lover of mythology to find these pieces, bring them into my home. It feels like something that I've carried through childhood in with me to adulthood. And I think that it also, doesn't hurt that it looks so beautiful and elegant in the space. So while I absolutely love the way that the built-ins surround our queen bed, it did mean that we had to go without some of the comforts in a normal bedroom like nightstands. So we had to get a little bit creative with that problem. I found these shelves from World Market. They're supposed to be wall-mounted shelves, but they have these really neat little drawers to them. So I thought it was the perfect item to just tuck into the shelves and serve as pseudo nightstands. So we tuck away, our eye masks or our earplugs for when we go to sleep at night, and they still look really beautiful on the shelves, which I love. I think that home to me is a space that you feel 100% yourself in and is a 100% reflection of who you are as a person to the world, to the folks that you're inviting into your home. It's a place that people should feel comfortable and be happy to stay in and really enjoy each other's company and soak up stories and laughs and lots of drinks and fun times. I think that a home should really feel somewhere that you choose to be, even when you could be anywhere else, that coming home just feels like a really special ceremony.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to my Rock Hill, South Carolina home. Y'all come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hey there, my name is Rebecca Bridges, and we're in Rock Hill, South Carolina. My husband and I bought this home around 12 years ago, and it had sat vacant for over 2 years when we looked at the property, and it needed a lot of cosmetic updates. It's a Colonial. And one of the things we loved most about this house was that it had great detail and moldings throughout. It has 5 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms, so we knew it would be large enough for our family that we one day wanted to have. I was pregnant with my oldest son when we moved in. And some interesting things about this home is it was built in the 70s, early 70s, and the family that previously lived here was actually my husband's substitute teacher in school. Currently, my husband and I live in this home with our 3 boys. I have an 11-year-old son and 7-year-old twins, and I'm the only girl in the whole house. We're very lucky in that we have a large yard. My boys love to be outside and play. They have a playhouse that they got for Christmas a few years back that they love. And in our neighborhood, we actually have a neighborhood pond, and my boys are always down fishing. So that helps keep our house a little tidy. Hey y'all, welcome to my foyer. One of the pieces that I love most in my whole home is this chest here. It was my great-grandmother's, and it has been with me in every room or house of my life, whether it be my childhood home, to my college apartment, to previous homes. It's followed me everywhere, and I love it and treasure it so much. I also wanted to point out, we have these pieces here, the artwork, and we have a paper map and this small painting, and these are all mementos that my husband and I got on our trip to San Diego when we were engaged. The painting that you see is the Hotel Coronado, which is where we stayed, and it's just a piece of street art that we got in the park and framed it here for a place of pride. And this map that you see here is from Torrey Pines, and you can actually see it's highlighted the trail that we walked and hiked when we got engaged. And this small piece you see here is an Etsy painting that I got for my husband one year for our anniversary. And a lot of folks ask about my mom and how we work together, and this also relates to my Aunt Jane. But growing up, I made fun of them all the time for these ugly dogs that they had all throughout their house. They're Staffordshire dogs, that's the brand, they're King Charles Spaniels, and lo and behold, what will you find in my home other than Staffordshire dogs everywhere? So we always make fun of these. My mom brought these back on a trip from England. That was the only thing I requested, was a pair of dogs. These she gave me for Christmas one year, and my Aunt Jane gave me this one as well, and I like to pretend like this is me, my husband, and our little family. And I also really love, and I think they're pretty fun, the felt Staffordshire dogs that are flanking my front door. They're by artist Sam Sidney from Charleston, South Carolina, and they're pretty cool. So the wallpaper in the foyer that you see here was selected with the help of a local designer and mentor, Angela Woods, and it was one of the very first things that we ever put into the home once we moved in, and to this day it's still one of my very favorites. It's by Nina Campbell. So these hardwood floors are original to the home, and they're actually varying widths, and they have beveled edges. They're really beautiful, however, they are very difficult to keep clean. I would say that my decorating style is traditional, colorful, and I definitely love pieces that have a story. I love incorporating family pieces, art that my husband and I have found along our travels. I love incorporating my children's art and sculptures into the mix, and for me, that is how I would classify my style. Traditional, but colorful, and hopefully a little fresh and whimsical too. So right off of our foyer is my home office, and it only recently became my home office during COVID. I'm sure we all remember. I had 3 small children that were virtual learning, and I was trying to work at the same time, so I moved this large farm table in here, and we just got busy. And I loved it so much that I decided to devote our old formal living room to my office space, and it's worked out really well. This farm table that you see here, my mom actually bought for us at an antique store in North Carolina, and it lived on our sun porch for forever, like I said, until COVID, and then we scooted it in here. And I found this large set of built-in bookcases, which houses all of my fabric samples for work. You can see they're labeled and all the fun things, off of an auction site, and I think it was like $1,200, so I got it for a steal. I painted it, and it's worked out really well. I have concealed storage down below, and then easy access to all of my fabric samples for current projects here. I do want to show y'all this needlepoint that you see here in crewel work was made for me when I was a baby, and it hung in my nursery and childhood bedrooms all throughout, and I have just always loved it and wanted to find a special spot for it here. So it's got all the colors of the room, which I love. I do want to point out some other things in my office area. These drapery panels are some of my favorites. They're made by some of my nearest and dearest friends, a mother-daughter duo out of Camden, South Carolina, and Rock Hill, Martha and Ash. And the fabric is actually from Teresa Roche. She's an artist in Greenville, South Carolina, and these are her fabric panels, and I just love them. And the artwork that you see here was actually my husband's when we got married, and it's paired with a Target original and some artwork by my son. You'll see lots of museum bees throughout the home. I love them by Trace Meyer. He's fantastic. They're really cool. They're made out of vintage frames. And this one has a very small Eiffel Tower in it, and I got it to commemorate our trip to Paris last year. What I love most about my home is how it feels. I think when you walk into our home, hopefully it's very warm and inviting, and hopefully you can tell that a young family lives here that is full of love and busy. And I love that when you walk into our home, you can see all of these unique things that, you know, other people may not find, you know, anything special to, you know, I'm pointing to this over here, but it's my brother's old chin strap that he had in middle school football. But those are the things, and I have it, you know, displayed proudly in our den. And every time I look at it, I think of him. And I think that's what makes our home special, is that we have those small, unique things that are special to us and tell the story of where we've been and hopefully where our family's going. Hey y'all, let's go to the dining room next. This was actually one of our very first completed rooms in our whole house. And it's interesting to me to see it now because although I think it's beautiful and I love it, it's a little more tame than probably what I would do today. But we found this beautiful round dining table actually at a rug gallery and purchased it for the space. And I did want to show y'all how I use my grandmother's china, which is apple blossom, along with our wedding china, which is tobacco leaf. I'm sure you've all seen. And I love to mix these two together with my husband's grandmother's china when we entertain and have parties. This piece of art is by artist Shannon Wood. She's also out of Charleston, South Carolina. My sister-in-law actually owns the Artist Collectives, which is an online resource. So we have several pieces from her gallery throughout our home, but I love it. It's a sunset, which is, when my husband proposed, he said sunsets forever. So sunsets are very special to us, and I just love this piece. I also wanted to show y'all the chandelier. It's made out of vintage Murano glass by Louise Gaskell. She's a North Carolina artist. And I have to tell y'all, the first time I ever went to High Point Market, I saw Louise's beautiful pieces and I fell in love. And when I went back again, I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna get something from Louise Gaskell. And when I was there, I saw this soft pink that you can see chandelier. And y'all, I just fell in love and I had to have it. And I love it so much to this day. I always tell my husband that with 3 boys, and at the time we even had a dog that was a boy, a pop of pink here and there never hurt anyone. Homeworthy, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I am not the best cook. I rarely cook. However, I am an expert at takeout. So if we are having folks over, whether it be for pizza or a family event, chances are I did not prepare it. However, I do love to set a beautiful table always. And I think a beautiful table consists of course, beautiful china and silverware, but you can find fresh flowers in your yard. These are fig leaves from our backyard, candles, always like the candles to set the tone. And then I don't know about you all, but my children always have a sweet tooth, so I usually have a little candy around as well. I found this piece on Facebook Marketplace and I love it. I love the fretwork pattern that it has on the front, and inside you can see we have some china mixed in with some mint julep cups and our champagne flutes that my husband and I had when we got married. So you can see those. Here's the tobacco leaf, which I just love. I love all of the colors, the pattern. And then of course my grandmother's apple blossom. I originally went to school to be a teacher. I taught kindergarten, and then I got my master's degree in library and information sciences. So that is a fancy way of saying that I was the school librarian, and I loved it. And when I was pregnant with my oldest son, I stayed home, and I stayed home for several years. Up until I had our twins. And when our twins were just a couple of years old, I had the opportunity to work for an intern for a local decorator. And I quickly knew that this work was very fulfilling and a passion of mine, and I loved it. And I worked with the decorator for just a little bit, and then I decided to go out on my own and open my own business. It's called House of Drennan, and it's named after my paternal grandmother's maiden name. I always wanted a little girl named Mary Drennan, and that did not happen with my 3 boys, so I used Drennan as the name of my business. And I went back to school, I took classes, I got certification, and we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. All right, let's head to the kitchen. So this is actually an original built into the home. And a couple of years ago when we underwent the renovation, this was actually our breakfast room. It was small, a little cramped, and separate from the kitchen, which was not the best for our family. So when we renovated, we removed the wall and opened it up to the nice large kitchen that you see here. I love displaying my children's schoolwork over here for them to see. We have our homework supplies in this beautiful bowl that my friend Kristen Sloan made, and I just love it. And over here I wanted to show y'all these rattan chairs that you see were actually from our old minister, his wife. I wanted these at our churchyard sale that we had, but she beat me to it. And they moved a couple of years ago, and when she did, she reached out and offered them to me. So I snatched them up, painted them, and had them covered, and I just love how they fill this small area here in the kitchen. So a fun thing in our kitchen, and actually the most colorful thing in our kitchen that you'll see, are these wonderful drapes and Roman shade by Manuel Canovas that my dear friends over at Martha and Ash made, and I love them. I love all of the colors, I love all of the patterns that you see here, and it was really one of the leading factors when we were decorating the kitchen. I love how they look paired with some of our other pieces that we have. This is a really cool embroidered piece from Stephen Wilson. He's a Charlotte artist, and it's paired with things like homemade artwork and a needlepoint from my Aunt Jane. My husband is pretty laid back when it comes to our decorating decisions here in the home, but one thing that he requested is a low maintenance countertop. I really had my heart set on marble, but it's very porous, it can etch, which I personally love. But we decided on a quartzite, which is a natural stone, but it's very durable. And I love it. It has veining similar to marble and the colorways as well, but it's basically 3 kids proof. On one of our first trips to Atlanta Market, my mom and my Aunt Jane, we all went together. And I found these lemon lamps that you see here at an antique store. And I love them. I had nowhere for them, but I bought them. And they stayed in storage until this renovation that we underwent recently. And I wanted them somewhere pretty prominent, but I kind of wanted them to be a feature as well. So I decided to mount these. They're just on acrylic sconces, and there's a plug-in back here as well. And I use this handy little controller from Amazon to turn them on and off. And I love them. One habit that I picked up also during COVID has been needle pointing, and you will see small touches of needlepoint throughout my home. I love it. I think it's relaxing and it's so fun. And of course, I had to get the Chef Wanted because I am not the world's greatest cook. However, I did want a really pretty stove. So this is a La Cornue range, and I love it. I love the patina of the brass, how it wears over time, and I use it way more than I thought I would. We went from electric to gas in our renovation, and it's made such a huge difference. So our kitchen is relatively neutral compared to the rest of our home, and I did that intentionally. I wanted a classic, timeless kitchen that was always going to be in style. And I chose to infuse color and pattern through my art and my fabrics, and I also have warmth with these vintage etched glass doors. They were actually in my in-laws' basement, and I think this little pop of wood warms up the whole kitchen area. And this piece right here is by Allison James. She's a Georgia artist, and the title of the piece is called Party Spaghetti. And once I heard that, I just had to have it. And it's paired with a classic blue and white platter with lemons that my mother brought back from Italy for me. So many people ask about me working with my mother. I'm from a very small, close-knit family. I had two older brothers that passed away when I was younger, so our family is extremely, extremely close. My mother is my best friend. And when I went out on my own, it was me for the longest time, and then I realized I needed a little bit of help, and so I enlisted my mother. Everything I've learned about decorating, about home, about family, has been from my mom. My mom and my Aunt Jane and my grandmother, Raines Drennan, who the business is named after, were very strong female influences in my life. And my mom lives about 45 minutes away from here, so when I asked her for help, most of the things that she does are remote work. However, she comes and loves to style and zhuzh on installs, and she's got a wonderful eye. So before we head to the den, I wanted to show you our bar area. This was originally a built-in desk. There was no cased opening here. And when we underwent our renovation, we just added a cased opening so that this could feel almost like a vestibule, butler's pantry area. We have a beer fridge here. My husband is quite the beer man. He is a third generation beer distributor, so beer is everywhere throughout. You can also see one of my needle points that I did for him. It's the Bud Light paired with a piece of art that has all the beer bottles. And we wanted storage for all the things, and so we have concealed storage here for all of our barware glasses. And when we were doing this room, I caught my husband on a really, really good day. I had long loved this wallpaper. It's called Artie by Pierre Frey. It had been my favorite. I could not wait to use it, and I knew this was like the perfect spot. So when we were talking about the renovation and decorating, my husband said, "Oh, just do whatever you want. It'll be fine." And so I chose hot pink. In a family full of boys, I thought, a little pop of pink never hurt anyone. So I went for it in the area. And it's a very bold pink. We have a painted ceiling. It's one of my favorite colors by Sherwin-Williams. It's called Rain Washed. And this area brings me joy and happiness every day. And my cabinet maker thought I was absolutely crazy when I approved the color sample, but I love how it turned out. And if in a few years we get tired of the pink, the trim and cabinetry is pretty simple to change and get a whole different look and feel with the wallpaper. Let me share with you some of my go-to glasses. My very favorites are these green stemless wine glasses that I found at the Dollar Tree. I have probably 24 of these. We've broken them over time. My husband loves using them because it has a curved bottom for his beer pours. These are also from the Dollar Tree. Folks, if you haven't been, you're missing out. They have great glass resources. And then I do love these. These I found at Anthropology last year, and they have a bee on them. I think they're so cute and so sweet. And my husband still reaches for the beer mugs that we had as wedding favors when we got married. For a home to have a soul, I think it should be filled with things that you love and that are meaningful to you. I think everything that you look out inside your home should bring you joy, whether it be a concert ticket from, a special concert that you experienced back in college, to looking at your child's artwork, to having a beautiful piece of pottery that you picked up on a meaningful trip. Those pieces tell stories, and I think that is what makes a house truly a home. Okay guys, right off of the bar is our den. This is where our family spends the majority of their time. We watch TV, we play games, but I have some of my most treasured pieces here in this room, and I wanted to show you what they are. So this large painting, I mentioned in our entry about the trip where we were engaged. My husband and I bought this piece at an art gallery in La Jolla right after we were engaged. And so it's always had a place of pride here in our home to remind us of that special time. And over here we have built-ins, which is where, of course, the dreaded TV is, but I have some of my favorite things here. One of those being these tobacco jars. You can see I have Rock Hill, is what it says, in Mitford, which is where I grew up. And I love those so much. We have some family photos. You can see I love food dogs, tea boxes, books. You can also see over here I have more dogs. They're everywhere in my home. The chin strap that I mentioned, that was my brother's. And more artwork and books. And these art pieces that you see on the bottom, this one was actually done by my husband when he was a child. And this one my oldest son created. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about mixing pattern and colors. Don't be afraid to do it. My philosophy is to buy what you love, and it's always gonna look good. I also think that black and white is a neutral. It goes anywhere, anytime, any place. Black and white is always there, it's always around. And I love colorful fabrics. This is one of my favorite patterns. I love the color, it's a little whimsical with the scalloped edges. We brought remnant fabric from our kitchen in here to kind of tie the two spaces together. You can see the black and white striped pillows are also brought in from the kitchen, paired with these fun pillow covers that I actually just folded in half and have them draped over the chair just to bring in a little more color and a little more pattern in the room. So our fireplace is original to the home, and when we bought the house it was stained just like this, and so many people encouraged me to paint it, and I did not want to. I think brown wood is beautiful. I think it's classic, and I love how it looks to this day. We have the dentil molding that you'll see throughout the home, and I just updated the area with a more modern fire screen, more tea boxes, more food dogs. I love this little fella here on top. And I have it paired with a piece of artwork that I got at High Point Market. It's actually torn and not in the best shape, but I had it reframed and I love it. It's a still life that's watercolor. And here is another bowl that my mother packed and lovingly brought back from England. They're all over the house. So if our family's not in the den, chances are we're gonna be out here on the sun porch, especially if it's really wonderful weather. Right now we are in the dead of summer and it is hot, but we love to use our sun porch for entertaining. Let me show you a little bit. Out here we have our seating area. We have end tables that came from my husband's grandmother's home and I love them. They're bamboo, which I love anything bamboo, as you can see, so I do love having those in here. Back here and outside, we have this old ottoman. It actually is a pair to the chairs in our den, and I didn't cover it. Instead, I just draped it with a rug that my husband and I purchased on a trip to Turkey. We bought these at the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. And I love it because it takes up a lot of visual space to hide all of my oldest son's gaming equipment down below. And over here you can see we love to eat out here. We'll do puzzles, Legos, you'll see those here. And I did want to show y'all this table that you see here was in my parents' kitchen growing up. We ate every meal I can think of around this table, and it actually belonged to my great-grandmother, and she ordered it from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. All right, so in our back hallway off of our den and sun porch area, these are some of my most cherished treasures. You can see the light fixture is actually from an old schoolhouse on our family property, and I love it. But in here you will find things like photos of my brothers. I have some cross stitch that my mother did when her parents got married. I have a piece of artwork. This is actually one of my most treasured pieces that my brother did. Pictures of grandparents, artwork from my children. We also have photos of my husband when he was a child, mixed in with photos from trips. And one of my very favorites is a birthday card from my very special Uncle Bill. Now let's head upstairs. Now we're at our upstairs landing, and I wanted to show you, we have these two runners here that my husband and I, again, brought back from our trip to Turkey, and I love these still to this day. We also have this beautiful piece by my friend Kristen Sloan. One of my children was there, we were at her house, and he saw this piece and he had to have it. And I think art should definitely evoke a feeling, and it did in him, and we have it framed and he loves it. Welcome to our bedroom. My husband and I, we decorated this room when we moved in over 12 years ago, and it really hasn't been touched too much since then. We have the same rug, we have the same furniture, and we're actually getting ready to redecorate. I'm going to show you our pieces that we love and will reuse, like our $200 Craigslist chest along with our rice bed. We have here, it's a painting I got at Scott's in Atlanta, and it's from Greece, which is where my husband and I went on our honeymoon. And even over our bed, you can see street art that we got on a trip to Paris. I am a born and raised country girl. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and I love it. There's lots of land and ponds and trees and cows. And so I just could not envision living the rest of my life in a neighborhood where I could see into our neighbors' homes. So my husband and I knew that we wanted to eventually move back to Rock Hill. He has a family business here. It's close to him for work. And when we started looking for a new house, this was actually the second house that we looked at. And my husband and I both knew as soon as we walked in that this was the house for us because it felt like home. For him, because obviously this home and the home that he grew up in share the same architect and a lot of the same elements. And for me, it felt warm and inviting, and sometimes people think that's silly, but I think each home has a feeling, and this one felt really great and warm and welcoming. You could tell it was a happy home, and a lot of the layout, it's very traditional colonial brick, reminded me of my childhood home as well. One thing my husband and I did when we bought our house over 12 years ago is we renovated the master bathroom. It was a lot of small areas that we combined into one large space. And this door, which leads to our master closet, and it is a hot mess, I cannot show you, but it was a seating room that we turned into the master closet. So when we renovated the bathroom, we added a double vanity. My husband has a side, I have a side. He loves to keep the two separate. And we have it paired with just our own mirrors, a sconce, and another piece from my sister-in-law's gallery, the Artist Collectives. We also added this freestanding tub, which I love. And we have really used this tub more than probably anything else in our home with our 3 boys. They seem to always find themselves in here rather than their bathrooms or somewhere else. So now let me take you to my oldest son's room. So he actually got to help decorate his room several years ago when he moved to this room and our twins moved to his old room. And he is very much into soldiers and the military, so that kind of was the driving force behind everything you see in here. I love this wallpaper. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's from Brunswick and Fee. It's paired. He actually just got this for Christmas last year, a piece of artwork, another one by our friend Kristen Sloan. He loves it. And a cute little story is he actually saw that piece of artwork on the flyer when she had her solo show here in Rock Hill, and he could not believe that she actually painted it. He thought it was a photograph, and he's loved it so much, so I got it for him for Christmas last year. In it, you can see we have lots of Toby mugs in here. He's a big Top Gun fan. He's also a Georgia Bulldog fan. My dad went to school there. My mother cross-stitched this. He's a golfer, so this is from the Wells Fargo Championship just this year. My husband put it in this little case for him. If you come this way, in our back entry, I used a quadrille wallpaper. It's hand-blocked. People think it's crazy when I mention it, but I love how it feels. It's very velvety and I just love it. The black and white to me is classic and pulls in some of the black and white elements from our kitchen. And we used the original floors during the renovation to create this backdrop for the mudroom here for my children. I also wanted to show you the artwork that we have here by the door. These actually came from my husband's grandmother's home, and I had them matted and framed when she passed away just a couple of years ago, and I love them. They pull in just that touch of pink here in the space. During our renovation, we also, we actually enlarged this space by 18 inches, and we reconfigured our laundry and powder room area. Let me show you that. So here is our powder room. It's quite small, but inside it's filled with some of the treasures that I love. One being a mirror that my great friend snagged for me for $100. She got it at a yard sale and bought it without asking me. She said that she knew I would love it. And it's paired in here with some other pieces of art that I think you might like. Come take a look. So in here we have some artwork. We actually just got this piece on our recent family trip to Ireland, and I have it paired with a collage by Susie Collins, who I met at a Charlotte pop-up a few years ago. And I do have a tip to share with you all. I love custom lampshades and patterned shades, and one way to get a custom look without a lot of money is just to add a little bit of trim to them. What does home mean to me? Home, to me, is a feeling. It's a feeling of love, it's a feeling of joy. Home is warm and comfortable. Home is safe. I think your home should be filled with things that you love. Everything you look at should tell a story and should bring you joy and spark joy. It should be the things that you love most, because the people you love most are here in it and making their own memories.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Jen. Welcome to my home in Charleston. Come on in, let me show you around.
I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz. You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Jen McDermott, and we are at my home in Charleston, South Carolina. We're about 10 minutes outside of downtown Charleston in an area called West Ashley. So we moved here about 2.5 years ago from a little town in New Jersey. We were about 10 minutes outside of Manhattan. After COVID, unfortunately, we had a few deaths in the family, and my husband had a near-death accident, and we were also quarantined together for weeks on end. He's in the medical field, and so anytime he coughed, he was at home on leave. So we spent a lot of time together. The kids were quarantined at school in their various colleges, and so we just started armchair traveling, and we were obsessed with Zillow. And we thought, you know, if we're gonna move after being here for 28 years, then it better be something that we really, really want. And so we had a very specific list. We of course wanted to be near the ocean, only 10 minutes hopefully. We love to hike, so we wanted to be somewhere near, you know, the hills, and we just decided everything pointed to Charleston. We needed a vibrant cultural city, and we love the history of Charleston, and we'd never even set foot in the state of South Carolina, ironically. And through a friend of a friend, we met a realtor who had moved here about 10 years ago, and she never looked back. She was also from Bergen County, New Jersey, where we were. And we met with her on a weekend in March, flew down here, and she took us all around the different areas outside of Charleston, in Charleston, and then we drove up on this development. It's literally right on the Ashley River. So in 20 minutes by boat, you can be in Charleston and on the Atlantic Ocean. We are 10 minutes from the beach, 10 minutes from the airport. It's just an unbelievable place. And South Carolina, this low country area, is just so charming, and the weather is fantastic. So we picked from a plan, we picked a lot, and that was kind of it. We've never done anything this crazy. Our friends thought we were a little nuts, but we just decided that we wanted a better life, and if, you know, we can spend the next 50 years here. So architecturally, the house is a low country farmhouse look from the outside. Inside, we went very classic country English French. Welcome to my living room. So here, we start out as the very open floor plan. It was a bit of a challenge to, put our character and our stamp on it and add architectural interest. So the first thing we did was we added these beams, and even though they look like hand-hewn beams, they're actually veneers. So they're U-shaped beams, they're hollow and very economical. And so we were able to add this instant architecture that also really, I think, delineates the living room. Because it's hard in an open floor plan to sort of create different spaces that have their own character. Also, by adding this wall of drapery in a wonderful soft linen, really gives you a nice backdrop to the entire space. And also architecturally, we changed, you're given various options in a semi-custom build. You get one paint color, one trim color, one ceiling color, which is very difficult, as you can imagine, for a designer. So I just picked this wonderful Sherwin-Williams Elder White. It has a nice depth to it without going too bright gray like a lot of whites do. And we chose, after we moved in, to paint the fireplace and all the doors and the spindles on the stairs in black. And that instantly draws attention and depth to the space and gives it some architectural value. If these spindles were white, they would just sort of evaporate. So that was a big thing. And then design-wise, the house doesn't have very many walls and it didn't have any built-ins. So I found these two demi-lune cabinets. Originally we would love to have built-in bookcases and window seats, but the price would be prohibitive. And in hindsight, I'm so glad we didn't, because these cabinets have so much storage in them that I'm able to just hide everything. I don't have to style everything perfectly. And design-wise in here, the goal was really to get a lot of people in this space and to enjoy it at the same time. So I used these two sofas and two different coffee tables. And what joins the colors is the thread of the yellow and the blues and the reds and the creams. This sofa had another life. We purchased this Brimfield, Massachusetts antique show, and it was a worn out off-white leather. And it worked perfectly in our other house. But here, it just sort of evaporated. And the feet were bun feet, and it was very low with this high ceiling. So she got a facelift. This beautiful cranberry linen. We did the contrast piping in the blue. I changed the seat, which was originally a Chesterfield seat with all the tufting, but it was way too fussy, so we just did a simple bench seat, and then did these simple buttons across the bottom and some nail heads to just sort of delineate it. And I'm obsessed with fabrics from the UK, these bespoke fabrics that are small production. So a lot of the pillows, I'm able to bring in those patterns. So this ottoman actually had 9 lives also. I bought this from my first roommate in Manhattan and took it with me everywhere. It has had a couple of different iterations of fabrics. Here we did this nice chunky vintage African mud cloth. And then I did a beautiful tape trim in the same cranberry with some large buttons at the bottom. And I paired it with this antique 1700s cherry French coffee table. You wouldn't think that it would go together, but if you just cleverly mix and match antiques and textiles and texture and scale, they all just sort of work together. This sofa was a bit of a splurge. It is a big space, so we really had to get a big sofa. It was upholstered in this beautiful Susan DeLise stripe fabric, and I had them change the direction on here so that it gives it a really interesting custom look, and it's super comfortable. And I think what makes these two work together also is that they're both fairly traditional, but they both have bench seats, so that kind of gives it a little bit of a consistency. The mantle is not exactly that interesting architecturally. I felt that when I found these lamps at a local antique store, I had to have them. They just scream architectural. They're these beautiful swirled Corinthian columns, and they're very overscale, and pairing two of them together I just thought was such a a fabulous look to add instant architecture. So these are what my husband and I call our Archie bunker chairs. They are wonderful swivel rockers, and we sit and read here for hours, watch movies, play games, what have you. I did it in this wonderful bespoke fabric to give it that real grounding, that punch of blue that we needed to sort of balance all of these other patterns and textures. The first step in mixing various fabrics and patterns is you definitely have to pick something that you love. And for me, the hardest part is narrowing down what I love. So I keep a common thread throughout. You'll see as we walk through, ochre yellow is a big common thread that'll be seen in a lot of different spaces. And so in here, you know, we've got the reds, the yellows, the blues, and we balance it with the bits of white, and also very contrasting with the black. That really anchors things. So the biggest change moving to South Carolina is the pace. It's a much slower pace, which is great. It's a little something to get used to when you are from the New York City metropolitan area. It gets a little frustrating sometimes, but then you just, you know, you realize you have to back off and, you know, take life a little slower, not so seriously. And the other thing that is, you know, the weather, it is hot. It is hot, 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 and humid. And the first year we were here, we embraced it. You know, we just were out in the sun and the beach every day as much as we could. But then, you know, when you try to get through your day and work and play and house, and it just, you know, you're always carrying a water bottle. It's just so hot. And the bugs are insane. They have these things called the no-see-ums, which are, they are just pretty violent. Okay, now I'll take you over to the dining room. And it's not necessarily a formal dining room by any means. As you know, it's an open floor plan. So in here, I wanted to create a space of its own with its own character. We were lucky enough to bring with us these two head antique chairs and the cherry table. And so we were able to splurge a little bit on this custom 8-foot banquette sofa. It's covered in a wonderful Thibaut fabric, so we don't have to worry about stains or bleaching from the window. Because I want everybody just to enjoy their meal, and it's very comfortable. In here, we were lucky enough to have a little bit of a wall space to hang something, and we collected these antique black Asian trays and paired it with another wood Asian sculpture, and just to sort of give the space a little bit of antiquity and some interest and character. And the black also matching the black shades and the back of the black chairs gives it that grounding black connective color that I've woven through the spaces. We love hosting dinners, and I have tons of mismatched casual blue and white transferware and flow blue plates and other little antique ironstone pieces that I love to mix in. I love to set a big table that has lots of character and color, and everything that I have, I use. I don't think anything is precious, and you know, if something breaks, I'll find another one. It's okay. So like in the living room with the large Canton jars that I have, I also bring in some more Asian pieces and pottery. This just says, you know, happiness to me, and I love pulling in greenery from the garden, flowers in the summertime from the garden. We have lots of hydrangeas and gardenias. It's just always great to have natural elements in a space. So I fell in love with this beautiful wooden carved Asian shutter. I actually found it on eBay. It has beautiful gilding in it, and it just says so much. It's just such a great piece of art. One of the things we loved about this open floor plan was, you know, coming in from the front door, from the big front porch, and then having this direct access to the exterior, to the screen porch. I would describe my style as, I guess, overall European country. There's a lot of French and English influences throughout. I have a lot of various collections. I love pattern, I love fabrics, I love mixing the colors and the patterns and the scale. You would definitely know if you're walking into one of the houses that I've designed or my own home that it's always full of character and color. I love decorating my own home. I think it's really my showplace and my calling card. And I'm just obsessed with so many different colors and fabrics and textures and creating comfort for my family and entertaining. And I just always want to have everything perfect. You know, being a stylist for so many years with the magazines, you know, we tweak every little thing all the time. So it's really a little nutty, but I don't think I could live in just a white box or just a temporary kind of space. It has to really be finished for me and for my family to be able to tolerate me. Here we are on the screen porch. It is such a great space. We can use it year-round. So here we put in, of course, the low country day bed that everybody has down here in the South, and you really do live on it. We take naps on it after we've been gardening. We come out here to read and relax. Of course, my husband had to put a TV in so we could watch football and barbecue. We played lots of lawn games, so it's just a great place to come and relax and get a respite from the heat, humidity, and of course those bugs. So we're a little obsessed with shells. Everywhere we go, from Greece to the Jersey Shore, and of course down here, we are always picking up shells. And some of the shells I just didn't know what to do with, so I started this little project. It's not quite finished yet, but it's a little birdhouse filled with all of the many shells. We just, don't know what to do with them, and we just keep decorating with them, getting a little obsessed. So I created a little area where we could come out and have coffee or drinks or appetizers, and it's a little French bistro table with a marble top. And these are actually original French metal chairs from Paris. And the artwork is some vintage sea fans that I found and framed them in this little shadow box frame with some burlap, kind of bringing a little bit of the art from inside into the space, but yet it's durable and seasonable. So this is a really cool piece I found at High Point Market. It's a vintage Asian rice box, but the designer who was selling it put a mirror in it, which I thought was so cool, and he had a huge wall of them, but I found one that I liked and found a home for it here. And then of course we mix in a lot of bamboo out here just because it weathers well and it just feels natural. So let me take you out to the back patio. So we created this patio. We haven't even had a chance to use it this year. I was able to find this black slate super discounted because nobody in Charleston wants black slate in the summertime. It's too hot. But for us, it was okay because we have this beautiful 200-year-old live oak tree. And the inspiration for creating this space was really just like the Charleston downtown courtyard backyards, just very kind of formal. Eventually, everything will bloom out. It's filled with hydrangeas and gardenias, peonies, azaleas, and then of course a very typical Charleston must-have is a water fountain. Unfortunately ours is not running because it's winter, but we have a beautiful set of teak chairs that will weather very well. These are all from Restoration Hardware, and the seating is all very weather. I can bleach it, I can power wash it, it's super easy to maintain. And it just feels very cozy back here with this brick wall. So one of the wonderful things about our property is that we're tucked in a little cul-de-sac, and we are able to get beautiful river views of the Ashley River. And on different parts of the property you can see more water and little slivers of water, and of course on the second floor you can see the river. It's just beautiful. I did always want to be an interior designer. I originally grew up in North Dakota and very limited on design inspiration. And I left when I was 18 because I was just hell-bent on going to New York City. And I ended up going to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, and studied interior design. I nannied my way through college so that I could pay for it all. I didn't know a soul in New York City. but I managed to get some pretty great connections through the school with some internships, and I ended up working with a very famous interior designer named Matthew Smythe, who I love to death. And then I got another internship, which led me in a completely different direction. I worked for Country Living magazine, a Hearst publication, for 15 years. And that really groomed me for interior design as well, because I worked in the home building and architecture department, and we would build houses every year all over the United States, and it would, be 12 to 15 pages of the magazine. And then also I was in charge of designing lots of kitchens and bathroom renovations. And so I really gained a lot of experience, I think more so than a regular designer would, because we were the press. So we were sent to the kitchen and bath shows, and we would have first peek at new appliances, new plumbing fixtures, things like that, and decide whether or not we liked them enough to then show them and feature them in the magazine. It was a really, really great experience. But after 9/11, I kind of decided that I was tired of the commute to New York City. My kids were babies, and it was just really difficult. And I decided to hang my shingle and start my own business. It was very difficult, but the best experience. And I ended up working on Property Brothers HGTV show. I did 3 different episodes for them. And that really is what catapulted my career and kind of got my name out there. So I was doing a lot of work in the tri-state area in New York and Connecticut. So here we are in the kitchen. This is a much smaller little kitchen than we had back in New Jersey, but I much more prefer it because it's so easy to go from task to task, just in this working triangle. And being that it was a little smaller, we did have to add some extra cabinetry, which I'll show you later. So again, being a semi-custom home, we're kind of given this cabinetry as it is. And so I decided, instead of wrapping the monotonous cabinets all the way around, I said, just don't install those, put them in the garage, and I'll do something with them later. And when we moved in, we built these floating shelves. So we have our cafeware and china all ready to go and grab. The other thing that we did to sort of customize it without any expense was, on all the white cabinets, we chose a black granite countertop. And on the dark island, we chose the white quartz countertop. So it kind of gives it a custom feel without any kind of an upgraded price. We also changed, once we moved in, lighting fixtures, faucets, different hardware, just because it didn't have the character that we wanted, so we wanted to customize it ourselves. And of course, this backsplash is the piece de resistance. It's this Moroccan handmade zellige tile. And what we were given with the plan was the simple white, subway tile. And this was another connective color, like I was mentioning before. In each space, this ochre yellow makes its presence, and sort of then, when you're looking at the space as a whole, you've got these connective colors that really make it cohesive. So, being an open floor plan, I didn't really want just this utilitarian kitchen. I really wanted it to feel decorated like the rest of the house. So one of the ways to add, a bit of country antiquity into the kitchen was, I found this vintage butcher block table. And it's a nice way to extend the island without taking up too much space. And it's a great place for chopping. All of our collection of cookbooks are here. And it was actually rather small. So when we bought it, it didn't have these legs on it, but we put these custom wheels to match the maple, and it brought it up to the proper countertop height. This is the cutest little cow. She has been with us for many years, probably 28 years. And so we brought her from New Jersey, and she found a home right here by the range. So every once in a while, you'll find some rings hanging off of her horns. When we're cooking and getting messy, we sometimes just take them off and put them up there, and hopefully they never drop into the pasta sauce. I added this beautiful piece of artwork just to give it, more of a lived-in space, not so utilitarian. It adds a lot of color. It's a beautiful painting of pomegranates, and it's actually so strange. My dentist, when I was a child back in North Dakota, his son turned out to be a really famous New York City artist. And at the time when I was in college, all I could afford was this tiny little painting, but now I think it's quite valuable. So like in a lot of English country kitchens, you see individual cabinets that house china. And not that this is a formal dining room, but we did kind of want a piece that was also a continuation of the kitchen, and we have so much various pottery that we needed more space. So I found this reproduction French glass cabinet. So even though these little reproduction Staffordshire dogs are not antique or anything, but they're the cutest little salt and pepper shakers, and I think it goes quite well with all of the various English and Asian pieces that I have going on in here. I love collecting egg cups, and they are just so gorgeous. And you can use them in either direction. I have quite a few of these. I love various gravy boats. This is a flow blue one. And as I said, I love to experiment with cooking, and this is actually a tagine. And I've made a few different stews in it. It's pretty cool. You have to heat it up quite a bit so that it can make its own kind of convection oven of sorts, and it just makes beautiful stews. So in most of the kitchens that I design, one of my signature things is to create a cool pantry door. In our home back in New Jersey, it was a Victorian door that I had painted, Victorian screen door that I had painted red. This house, being semi-custom, came with just the plain door, which I did paint black, but then my husband and I were like, it's just not special enough. So I found this really cool company online called Rustica, and this is a solid metal door with the fluted glass, and then I put in a fun satin brass knurled hardware to kind of mimic the knurling on the faucet. What makes a house come alive is the people and the personality that you display. We have a lot of various collections. Everything has a story. I love mixing old and new, and I think that gives it a lot of comfortability for people so that nothing is perfect. You're not afraid to put a glass down on the coffee table because there's already many stains on it. Most fabrics are treated these days, so there's no worry that way. Everybody seems to have a dog, so people come with their pets and we all just hang out. It's the love of the family that comes through the personality of the design. So here we are in the mudroom, which I don't even know if we really should be calling it a mudroom. I don't know what to call it because it is so multifunctional. When it was first built, semi-custom again, all it came with was this drop zone, which was painted in white. And then over here were just plugs for the washer and dryer. And we really needed a lot more out of this space. So I ended up maxing it out by building in the washer and dryer and using the same absolute black countertop as the kitchen to make it flow as if it were one space. And those missing cabinets from the kitchen I put here to house all the detergents and beach towels. And then of course the drop zone is just great, filled with all the things for the dogs, the beach, garden shoes, what have you. And we also needed a bar. So I was able to build these cabinets to look just like the kitchen cabinets. And we added a wine fridge, we added an ice maker. So we have a little section over here that's for the bar, and then we have a coffee bar over here. And I found this piece on King Street, downtown Charleston, at a place called E2. It's a European store. And like they do in Europe, a lot of the kitchens are very modular. So this piece, although it is very large, it's a black metal cabinet, but it has all glass sides, so it's not so imposing. So it holds all of our various glassware and some silver that we've collected. One of the quirky fun things in this space is, like most of the kitchens I design, I always do some sort of cork board, chalkboard area. And this one has a dual purpose because it cleverly comes right off and covers all of the Wi-Fi and connectivity of the house. So why somebody would put that right in that spot, I don't know, but I found a way to cover it up. So I know it's not very typical to put a lamp in a kitchen, but I love that. This was in our kitchen in New Jersey, and I just think it adds a lot of ambiance to the space. And my husband and I joke, when the lamp is on, that means it's cocktail hour. This artwork collection came from our house in New Jersey. It nods to where we lived off the Hudson River. And here, of course, sailing is huge. But what's great about this map, it's an old map from 1776, and it actually is exactly where we lived on the Hudson River before it was all developed. And one of the things that I think is a way to make this space classy enough and interesting enough to stand on its own, because you are seeing the whole house. You see, when you walk in the front door, you see this room. You don't want it to look like a dirty laundry room or what have you. So that's why everything is very built in and strategically placed, and it looks like a continuation of the kitchen. And so another way to jazz it up was to put this wallpaper on the ceiling. So it gives the room a lot of space, a lot of character. This is a beautiful hand-blocked print from the UK. And it kind of looks like tile, which I think is kind of cool. And it has a lot of pattern, just like the rest of the living room and the rest of the house. The thing we love most about this home is the open floor plan. Coming from a Dutch colonial 1930s home, everything's very compartmentalized, and the ceilings were very low, and everything was very delineated by walls. And here it's just a large open plan. The windows are huge, the light is amazing. There are hardly any walls, so we did have to cut down on a lot of artwork. And there is a challenge of, kind of delineating the spaces with an open floor plan. But it's just great to be in a space that just feels so open. And the ceilings are 10 feet high, so it's just such a great space. So here we are in the primary suite. This we call the wall of shame, lovingly. It is all the photos of our relatives, our grandparents, our parents, us as babies, my babies. It also hung in New Jersey. I hate to say it again, but on the stairwell we had lots of walls. And I just love having my family around me. What we love about our bedroom is that it's very open and cozy, a little devoid of color, which is unnatural for me, but it just has a very calming feel, which is what we all want. It started with this rug. This is an antique rug that I found in High Point again. And it really grounds the space and gives me lots of jumping off points to other fabrics. And it really gives the space a bit of antiquity, which it needs so that it doesn't look brand new. So we always wanted a 4-poster bed. I just love them. They give you so much architecture, and it really brings your eye up to the ceiling, and it fills up the large space. In our old home, the ceilings were 8 feet, so it was impossible to have this kind of a look. I was lucky enough to find this one on sale. It was originally covered in a gray fabric, but given the price, I knew I could customize it on my own. So we started off with doing the side rails and the end rail in just a simple linen fabric that matches the swivel chairs. And then I customized it with this beautiful Indian flower fabric, another bespoke fabric, on the headboard with some shiny brass nails. And to make this a continuous kind of backdrop, I did the same fabric in the Roman shades. So here I mixed, you can see the various different colors and stripes, this beautiful striped fabric from Peter Fasano, and mixing it up with a wonderful little paisley, and adding a pop of blue with the lamp, and otherwise keeping everything else very off-white and creamy colors, just to simplify it and make it very soft and feeling. Another way to add some architectural interest and some character to this space is this beautiful beaded chandelier. It's from Visual Comfort. It just really sets the space off and just looks magnificent. It's also pretty gigantic, as is the mirror behind me, and also adds a lot of character being this Regency carved gilded mirror. But I think this is one of the examples of properly playing with scale and pattern. As long as you have, a few pieces that talk to each other, then you're able to get that balance to work together. So I always dreamed about having a huge bedroom that actually was able to accommodate chairs at the end of the bed. I just love that look. And it actually is really awesome. We sit in the chairs, of course, to put shoes on and things like that, but we also watch TV here. It does house some laundry. But one of the fun things I did here is the chair came with the same pillow that matched the linen. But I found this beautiful crewel work from Schumacher and just kind of blew the budget a little bit and had these really huge pillows made for the chairs, which I think make them look really spectacular. And they also speak to the backdrop of all these patterns and fabric colors. So this is our primary bathroom. Again, talking about semi-custom homes, a way to make it look more custom. We were in the plan, this was double vanity. We were able to choose the color and the faucets, the plumbing, and the hardware. The flooring choices were a little bit limited, so we just kind of went with a simple faux marble look all the way through to the shower, just to keep it kind of monochromatic. We added these tiles because we really needed some color in the space, and this beautiful aqua really speaks to the bedroom colors as well. And then I added these 3 beautiful Moroccan-shaped black iron mirrors to give the space some character and some wow. And then we added a black glass cabinet for the overflow of towels and some of our other collections. Home means love to me. I feel like when I have anybody over and we're entertaining, we're using plates and things that we've collected that have stories to them. We're all laughing, we're telling stories. We're just comfortable. We love to just relax and play games and have drinks and, do outdoor games, especially here in the Low Country. And it's just, I want everybody to feel comfortable and loved when they come to our home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, Homeworthy. This is Daisy Finley. I'm excited to show you around my home today. Come on in. I am Daisy Finley. I am the buyer at Fritz Porter, which is a home decor store here in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. I also do part-time interior design outside of my role there. And this is my home. Welcome. I grew up in Connecticut in a suburb of New York City, and I moved down to Charleston pretty much right after I graduated college. I was living in New York for about a year after college, and a friend of mine was living in Charleston, and she had this little studio apartment, and she said, come stay with me for a little while. I was unhappy with my job at the time, and I came and I never left. And I started working at Fritz Porter right when I moved down here as well. So pretty much my whole time in Charleston has been working at the store and working in design. My mom was an interior designer growing up, so I kind of always had the bug, and I never studied it in school or anything, but I guess I didn't realize how much I was picking up from her just living in her beautiful spaces and being around her creative energy. So I definitely have my mom to thank for all of my talents and skills that I've picked up over the years. so we are standing in my living room, and this is a room that gets mostly Eastern light. Even though it has big windows, it's actually quite dark. So I wanted to lean into that and paint it a dark paint color. I feel like when you try to cover up a dark room by painting it white, it just never works out. It always looks sort of like it's still dark. So I leaned into the dark with the paint color. This is Farrow and Ball Green Smoke. And I wanted to make this room super cozy because of that dark paint color. We've got our fireplace in here and our TV, and this is where me and my fiance kind of chill out at the end of the day, relax, watch TV. So leaned into the cozy vibes. That said, I wanted it to be really fun and colorful, and it was a good opportunity to use some prints. So one of the first things I chose was this drapery. I knew that I couldn't do custom drapes throughout the entire house because that was cost prohibitive. But working at Fritz Porter and having a huge textile selection, I had to pick a place where I could do a standout window treatment. So I chose this room, and this is a fabric by Filling Spaces. It is hand blocked in India, so it takes hours to produce this fabric, and I love that each piece is never going to be the same when you order it. So it's a really beautiful window treatment, and I wanted it to kind of look like, you know, it could have been here forever. It sort of has that ancien kind of feeling. The next thing that I chose was our Varellin sofa. This was definitely a splurge, but we spent a lot of time, like I said, watching TV in here, so we wanted something super comfortable. I chose the neutral fabric because I wanted to be able to take it with us in the future if we should move, that it would sort of translate to wherever we wanted to put it. Beyond that, I sort of layered with a lot of vintage furniture, which is a lot of what I source through my job. And most of these things are things that I found on buying trips for Fritz Porter. I was really excited by this Mastercraft coffee table. I love the black and the brass, and these can go for a lot of money, and I found it for, you know, like $400, which was really exciting. I've got a mid-century lamp over here, which I really love. And then, oh, these are fun hand sconces. The owner of Fritz Porter actually found those little vintage hands, and we turned them into sconces. I'd initially bought them for my rental because they're plug-in, and I needed some more light on the walls, but they've traveled with me to every place that I've lived because I just love them so much. And the piece of art is actually by my mom. She picked up painting in retirement, and she's an amazingly talented artist for being new at it. So a lot of the art in the house is from my mom, which is really fun to have a little piece of her here. My fiance, Jamie, really loves chess. He plays online chess all the time. It's a little bit of an addiction, so I actually got him this chessboard for his birthday a couple years ago. It is a hand-carved chessboard from Africa. I really love it sitting out. I can't play, so I don't play with him, but when we have friends over that know how to play chess, he loves using that with them. So another one of my favorite pieces, probably my favorite piece in this room, is this vintage rattan wingback chair. I found this on a buying trip for the store, and I just thought it was so funky and cool. It's got like a little cup holder and a little magazine rack on the side, and it's just sort of a fun piece. So it was in an awful fabric when I bought it, so we recovered it. This is this lovely rose uniac fabric that we sell at the store. I love that kind of red-brown color that's sort of different than a lot of the chocolates that you see. And then the fabric on the cushions is Joseph Frank. Working at Fritz Porter and learning a lot about textiles, I love the history of textiles, and Joseph Frank is a huge part of that. This fabric was designed while he was in Manhattan after he'd fled Vienna during World War II. So I just think that it's a completely timeless pattern that is just whimsical and fun and makes people smile. So I love that. And I have the same on my pillows over here as well. Yeah, that's just a fun little globe lamp. I bought that on Etsy because I just sort of fell in love with it. This is a little bar cart that I have over here. And I always leave this on, and I like when we pull down the street that this little globe, the little orb is always showing through the window. It kind of welcomes me home. So yeah, that's a really fun little piece. And then I have these little Thonet inspired, I mean, they could be Thonet, I don't really know, they're not signed. Chairs by my fireplace, and I had a little cushion made for those as well in a Virginia craft textile that I really love. So lots of vintage pieces in here, lots of little recovering projects that really made them my own, and that's my living room. This is a home, it's a kind of a bungalow style home in a newer for Charleston neighborhood called Wagner Terrace. We are in downtown Charleston, and this home is pretty typical of the neighborhood, that it was built in the 20s and kind of in that typical early mid-century style. I purchased the home in 2020. It was a real pandemic situation. I am one of those people who can't sit still, and the store was closed during the pandemic, and I was going on these long walks, and I kind of realized that I needed a project. So we ended up looking, me and my fiance who lives here with me, ended up looking for homes in 2020 during the pandemic, and found this one and really loved it. It has great bones, but it did need a lot of work when we first bought it. A lot of the homes in this neighborhood, the systems and everything hasn't been updated since they were built in the mid-century era. So it definitely was a big project. It needed new plumbing, new electrical, new windows, new AC, kind of all the unglamorous things that you don't want to spend money on. But we just really fell in love with it and decided to purchase it, and ended up renovating it for a little over a year. So when we took down the wall between the old kitchen and we're standing in what was the dining room, after that, we kind of had this big empty space. So I brought the island out sort of halfway into the space, but this is really an important walkway for the house. And when you come in the front door, you see the entire house all the way through to the back French doors and through the dining room. So I wanted to keep this really open. I love that visual of seeing through the house and connecting all the rooms together. And this space over here was something that I didn't know what I wanted to do with at all, and I sort of just had faith that I would find the right piece for it. And I was at High Point Furniture Market, and I was on a buying trip for the store, and anybody who's shopped at High Point for antiques knows that it's a mad rush where you're competing against, 50 other designers who are running around trying to buy the same pieces as you. And I went upstairs in one of the antique suppliers we went to, and this was there, and nobody else was around, and I was like, oh my God, this is the score of the century. So I just love this piece. It's literally the perfect size for this area. It's the perfect depth, and I just knew I had to have it for my home. So, and ended up working out serendipitously. I always love to keep a really big plant statement over on that side. Sometimes I cut from my garden. I have got big tropical plants out there, elephant ears and Chinese fan palms, but today a friend, Lily from Flower Shop, did this amazing arrangement for me, and it is just totally stunning. And then the photograph is by a artist that we represent at Fritz Porter, Gately Williams, and he's such a talented photographer. I love that his photographs don't always read as photography. You could easily think that this was some sort of art print. He's just so talented, and I love how the colors in this piece really bring out some of the other colors, but I wanted the entire kitchen space to feel calm and relaxed, so I also love that it has a lot of blank space. It just feels sort of peaceful in here. So it's our first home. We were renting before this, so we have never been homeowners before, and you know, we're a young couple, so I wanted it to be really fun and not take itself too seriously. I'm a person that loves color and pattern, and this was my opportunity to really go for it with all of that. You know, when you're renting, you can't paint your walls, you can't wallpaper, so I was really excited to be able to do that and let loose with all of my ideas and creative energy. So we are in my dining room, and since we took out the original dining room from the kitchen, I knew I wanted to replace it somewhere in the house. I love having guests over for dinner. So this space, which is actually an addition to the original house, is super long and narrow, so it was a little bit of a design challenge to fit a dining room table and a whole dining setup in here. How I ended up solving that was pushing the banquette up against the wall, and then that allowed us to move the table over and not be quite centered in the space and keep this walkway that goes to the doors that lead outside, which we use often. Another way that I filled the space was with these really two big giant sconces that take up a lot of visual space there, and just sort of elongate the whole dining setup, where we couldn't have such a big table, but it doesn't look empty in the room. And then over here, since we had some more space on this side, we created a little wet bar, which I love. That was another thing on my homeowner bucket list. I really wanted a wet bar, and my fiance Jamie is a great mixologist, so he uses this a lot. I've got lots of vintage glassware and cell-colored glass, which we sell at Fritz Porter over here, and I love having a little lamp on a bar. I think that's always a must for some ambient lighting and just, you know, to set the vibe for cocktail hour. And so over here is my dining room. I mentioned that we had this banquette made for the space. This is a Highland House banquette that I put this really lovely Lisa Corti block printed fabric on, and this actually, fun fact, took longer to make than the house took to renovate. It was during the COVID upholstery crisis, and it was like 10 months to get this, but well worth the wait. I've got my fun little LED lamp here. I think that they're really fun to style your tablescape with instead of candles. They make it really easy. You don't have to keep replacing your tapers. I also love my little rattan boat here, and I filled it with citrus for the season. I think it's really a really fun, easy styling tool, especially for this time of year when there's plentiful citrus available at just the grocery store. Okay, so the wallpaper is by Serena Dugan, who is the former founder of Serena and Lily. And I mentioned before that when you look through the front door, you can see all the way through the house to the French doors in the back, which we put in, and they were a bit of a splurge, but I felt like it was important to keep the visual going all the way out into the backyard. So the wallpaper, I knew I wanted to wallpaper this room, and but I wanted something that wasn't going to compete too hard and kind of block the colors of the different spaces and would kind of continue your eye. So I love that this is like a neutral, subtle pattern that I think makes the room feel really cozy, as only wallpaper can do, but it isn't, you know, too much of a statement or blocking up the spaces in a way that's not appealing when you're looking all the way straight through the house. So we're standing in this little hallway that's sort of a transition space between the living spaces and the sleeping spaces. And when I first saw this space, I knew right away that I wanted to wallpaper it. It's a small space, so it wouldn't take a ton of yardage. And I knew that it would be a good area to kind of add a little print and color because it's visible from so many different places in the house. So I chose this wallpaper from Common Room, which is a British company, and it's called Lioness and Palm, and I feel like it sort of just captured the essence of the house. But I also love that it's a historical wallpaper. So Voisey actually designed this wallpaper in 1918 So I think it's like a little ode to timeless design and just how some themes and colors and patterns really do stand the test of time. And I love this wallpaper, and everybody who comes in the house comments on it. So it's one of my favorite things in the house. I think my favorite thing about the house is that I feel like it has really good inviting energy. My friends love to come here and gather here, and it's just a house where I feel that people feel welcome, and it's not too precious. People feel like they can, sit on the couch or make something in the kitchen, and it's just a home that I think feels really warm for anybody who comes into it. Okay, so we are here in my guest room. My primary bedroom is actually still a huge work in progress, so we're not going to be seeing that today, but I thought I'd show you the guest room, which is a great place to show you anyhow. So this room, the colors are actually inspired by this awesome St. Frank bedding, which I just fell in love with when we got it in at Fritz Porter. It has kind of this unusual color combination of light pink and mustard, which I hadn't really seen before, and that was how I took inspiration for the colors in this room. I love this deep mustard color. It's a small guest room, so there's really only room for the bed in here, so I wanted to make it cozy and kind of envelop my guest with color. So I added the drapes because I also wanted to, again, make it cozy, and I think that window treatments are always the best way to do that. These drapes are actually ready-made drapes from Pottery Barn that I purchased. And then I added the hardware and this trim that I got from the store and had my seamstress apply. So overall, I think they look pretty custom, but for a lot less of a price point. So that's a fun little hack for you. The bed was one of my favorite pieces that I got for the house. This was from a customer of our store. Was moving from her enormous house out at the beach, and she didn't have room for this bed, and she brought me a list of things that she wanted to sell and ended up giving this to me for a steal. It's a very expensive bed, so I'm honored to have it in my house, sort of a right place at the right time moment with that. The bed's super high, so I actually had a hard time finding end tables that were going to be the right height, that were a traditional nightstand. I also wanted to fill the whole space in the room and kind of make it one complete bed setup, rather than have, just an awkward sliver at the end. So these are actually outdoor bar cart tray tables that I found on Wayfair for like $95. And I think they look really cute styled with the books and everything. You don't really notice that they're bar carts, and they read more as an end table. Oh, one other little thing is I have another one of these LED lamps in here. I forgot to have them put an outlet on this table, and it is a dark room, so this is a great solution for anywhere that you don't have an outlet, is a rechargeable lantern, because it's super dark in this area without it. So another tip. Okay, so we are in the guest bathroom, and this is a space that we definitely didn't want to go over the top with. We spent most of our bathroom budget on the beautiful master bath. But in here we wanted to just keep it simple. Originally there was a basket weave tile on the floor, which is very in keeping with the era of this house. So we, even though the tile here wasn't in great shape, we replaced it with new basket weave, and I wanted to keep some of the nods to the original home and the era that it was built in. And other than that, we added, we replaced the vanity. This is just an inexpensive vanity that we got on Wayfair. And we did just classic subway tile in the shower. So I think it's nice to know that you don't have to break the bank, and you can get a nice clean slate for your bathroom and have a nice chic place without spending tens of thousands of dollars. word home for me is just the place where you feel most comfortable, the place that really tells people about you and your personality. When I'm working with clients or I'm working in the store with customers, I always say that you want your home to reflect you and your personality. So whatever you love is going to work. And I think that home is just the place where all of your favorite things and your favorite people are, and the place you're really excited to come to at the end of the day.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.